She stood in court with her hand in his, the same hand that had been on my kitchen counter just a week before, and laughed when I walked in wearing my work uniform. That's the moment I knew I'd never get the life back I thought we had. My name's Adam. I'm 33, and my wife cheated on me for months while I worked 12-hour days to keep our life together. Not just cheated, humiliated me, manipulated me, gaslit me into thinking I was paranoid. And when I finally gathered the proof and filed for divorce, she tried to take everything. My house, my business, even my tools. But what she didn't know, I was already 2 steps ahead. We'd been married for 4 years. I met her when she brought her car into the shop. She wore heels too high for a service bay and perfume too expensive for a place that smells like motor oil. I should have known she'd never be comfortable in my world. But I fell anyway. Hard. Natalie worked in marketing, power dresses, rooftop events, the kind of people who look at calloused hands and see failure. But she told me I was different. She said I had drive. She said she admired me for working with my hands. What she meant was, "You'll do for now." At first, everything looked perfect. We moved into a small house I'd saved for. She decorated it like it was a magazine shoot. We hosted dinners, smiled in pictures. But I noticed how she'd introduce me differently depending on the crowd. He runs an auto business, not he's a mechanic. Like I was some fixer-upper she hadn't quite finished polishing. It didn't take long before she stopped showing up at the shop with lunch, stopped texting me during the day, stopped touching me like she used to. I thought she was stressed. I thought it was work. I thought maybe I was doing something wrong. I didn't think it was another man. Turns out, while I was under cars, she was under someone else. A coworker named Brian, or as I started calling him in my head, the executive with perfect teeth. You want to know the worst part? Everyone at her office knew. They all treated me like a joke. Some poor guy fixing brakes while his wife played house with a marketing director behind his back. And if you think this is already bad, we haven't even gotten to the part where she and her family tried to take everything I owned, even my name. So before we go further, do me a favor. Hit that like button and subscribe if you want more stories like this, because I'm not the only one this has happened to. And someone out there needs to hear what really goes on when the person you trust most turns into a stranger. What followed was months of lies, a court battle that nearly destroyed me, and a final twist they never saw coming. When the grease monkey they mocked turned out to be the one with all the power. And I'm going to tell you exactly how I did it. When we first started dating, everything felt like a movie I didn't belong in. She picked the restaurants, I picked her up. She talked about ad campaigns and branding strategies. I talked about carburetors and torque specs. Somehow it worked, or at least I thought it did. She'd show up at the shop in heels and a pencil skirt, her car always needing something. She called it our excuse to see each other. My coworkers teased me, said I was punching above my weight. I laughed with them, but somewhere deep down, I worried they were right. Natalie liked that I listened more than I talked, that I didn't challenge her opinions the way her boardroom rivals did. I was simple, predictable, comfortable. She'd say things like, "I love how grounded you are," or "It's nice to be with someone who doesn't play games." I thought that was affection. But later, I realized it was condescension in disguise. We dated for a year before she moved in. I remember scrubbing every inch of the house, painting the spare room, fixing up the bathroom tiles just to impress her. She moved in with 4 suitcases and a set of rules. No shoes in the hallway. No tools on the kitchen counter. No car magazines on the coffee table. Still, I thought, this is what compromise looks like, right? When we got engaged, her family was polite. Her father shook my hand like he was testing my grip. Her mother complimented my charming little house with that fake smile rich people wear when they step outside their zip code. And Natalie? She just looked at me and said, "Don't worry, they'll warm up to you once they see how happy I am." She picked the venue, Her dad paid for most of it. I offered to cover the honeymoon, and she laughed. Not in a cute way. Adam, you're sweet, but that won't even cover the flights. That was the first time I felt small around her. Like I didn't just marry a woman, I married her expectations. In the early days, it was good. We had lazy Sundays, coffee in bed, Netflix marathons. She'd sit in the garage while I worked on my project car, asking questions like she was actually interested. I thought we were building something together. But the shift was subtle. It started when her work promoted her to senior associate. Suddenly, the stories she told me weren't about annoying clients. They were about dinners with regional heads, drinks with executives, and a guy named Brian who just gets how she thinks. She began coming home later. Her wardrobe changed, sharper, colder. One night she looked at me and said, "You're not going to wear that to the dinner, are you?" I was wearing a collared shirt and clean jeans. It didn't matter. To her, I looked like a mechanic trying too hard to play dress up. Another time, I overheard her on the phone with a friend. "He's really sweet, salt of the earth. Just not someone I'd take to a launch event." That one stuck with me. She still smiled at me, still kissed me goodbye, still texted hearts during the day. But everything felt curated, controlled, like I was becoming a supporting character in her story. Background noise in a life she was polishing to impress the people who never asked about me anyway. But I told myself it was normal. That marriage had phases, that her success didn't mean my life was shrinking. Turns out, I was wrong about a lot of things. You don't wake up one day and realize your marriage is over. It starts with the little things. A change in tone, a pause too long, a smile that doesn't reach the eyes anymore. And by the time you figure it out, you're already sleeping next to a stranger. After her promotion, everything changed. I mean, everything. Natalie's days started earlier and ended later. She stopped asking about my projects, stopped calling during lunch. She used to bring me food to the shop. Now she barely answered my texts. One night I asked if she wanted to come to a friend's barbecue. Small group, beers, nothing fancy. She looked at me like I'd asked her to scrub engines with me. "I'm exhausted, Adam, and I have an early meeting. You go." I went alone, and for the first time, I didn't lie when people asked how we were doing. I just shrugged. Then there were the comments. Subtle, almost playful, but they landed like punches to the gut. "You still wear that old hoodie? Or are those your only shoes that aren't steel toe? Maybe you should take a business course or something. Expand your options." I laughed along at first, but each word chipped away at something I didn't know could break. At her work events, I became invisible. She introduced me as Adam, not my husband, just Adam. And when someone asked what I did, she'd step in before I could answer. "He works in automotive operations," she'd say. Not a lie, but not the truth either. She was embarrassed of me, of my calloused hands, my shop uniform, my life. I tried harder. Started shaving every day. Bought better clothes. Even enrolled in night classes at the community college. Accounting, management. Things I thought might impress her. I never told her. Partly because I wanted it to be a surprise. Mostly because I was scared she'd laugh. We started spending less time together. Our dinners got quieter. Her phone was always face down on the table. She got good at smiling without looking up. One Thursday night, I got home early. Her car wasn't in the driveway. I called. No answer. Texted. "Work thing. Late." It became a pattern. Thursdays turned into the day she always had client dinners. Once, I drove past her office, just to be near her. I don't know what I expected, but her car wasn't there. The next morning, she came home with damp hair and a takeout coffee. Not her usual kind. A different cafe, different cup, different neighborhood. I didn't say anything, because I still wanted to believe. Still hoped it was just stress, pressure, distance, not betrayal. But deep down, something in me started to shift. I stopped fixing things around the house, stopped waiting up for her, stopped pretending the woman who looked through me was still my wife. And yet, I stayed, like a fool with oil on his hands and hope in his chest. But hope is a dangerous thing. It keeps you in places long after you should have walked away. The human mind is funny. You can know something in your gut and still need proof to believe it. But once you have that proof, you can never go back. I wasn't looking to become a detective. I was just a guy trying to hold on to what little dignity he had left. But the signs were everywhere. One Thursday afternoon, I checked the mail. Mixed in with bills was an envelope from a high-end jewelry store downtown. I figured it was some promotional thing until I opened it. Inside was a receipt. A men's luxury watch, paid in full, by my wife. My birthday wasn't even close, and Natalie had never bought me jewelry, ever. She used to say it wasn't practical for someone who worked with his hands. That was the moment something broke in me. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed more. So I started watching. I'd drive past her office on Thursdays. No car, her location on our shared app, always turned off. The credit card statements, dinners for two, same time, same places, always on her late nights. I began keeping a log, times, dates, charges, patterns, but the real turning point came from someone I didn't expect. A woman came into my shop for an oil change, worked at the same firm as Natalie, friendly, chatty. When I handed her the keys, she smiled and said, "It's nice to see you two still together. Natalie made it sound like you'd already split." I froze. "Sorry," she blinked. "Oh, I must have misunderstood." Then she left. That night, I sat in our kitchen waiting. She came in like nothing was wrong. New earrings, perfect hair, texting someone with a smile on her face. I didn't say a word. I just watched her. She poured wine, sat across from me, told me about her client meeting. And I realized she wasn't even trying to lie anymore. She thought I was too blind, too dumb, too busy under a car to ever catch on. But I was paying attention now, and I wasn't going to say anything. Not until I had enough to bury her in court. She thought I was stupid, that I'd spend my life covered in grease, too dumb to notice her slipping away. But while she was rehearsing her lies, I was building my case. I stopped asking questions, stopped waiting up, stopped hoping. I played the part, the tired, loyal husband who didn't know a thing. Meanwhile, I was documenting everything. Phone records, credit card charges, GPS pings, even receipts from their little weekend conferences, hotel stays charged to our joint account. Amateur mistake. I didn't tell anyone, not even my sister, who'd warned me about Natalie from the beginning. I didn't want sympathy. I wanted leverage. One night, Natalie came home and caught me at the kitchen table, surrounded by paperwork. She laughed. "More repair invoices?" I looked up. "Yeah, just trying to stay organized." She reached for a bottle of wine like nothing was off. "You know," she said, swirling her glass, "if you let me handle the books like I suggested." I cut her off. "You've got enough on your plate. All those late meetings." She paused. For a second, I think she heard it, the edge in my voice, but she didn't press. She never imagined I was capable of playing her game. That's what she underestimated the most. Not my intelligence, but my patience. A friend of mine, a cop, helped me set up a simple system. All legal in our state. One-party consent for recordings. I started logging every suspicious conversation, every offhand comment from her or her father, who was suddenly pushing for me to sign over security rights to the house. Then came the messages. One day, she left her laptop open. Rookie mistake. Maybe she was getting sloppy, or maybe she truly believed I'd never dare snoop. But I did. And what I found? It nearly knocked the air out of me. Emails, chats, screenshots. She and her boyfriend were laughing about me, calling me the anchor, the dead weight. They were planning their life together already, looking at houses, talking about vacations. There was even a message that said, "Once we get through this divorce, it's all ours." All ours. She hadn't filed anything yet, hadn't confronted me. But in her mind, it was already over. She was just waiting for the right moment to strike. That's when I knew I couldn't afford to wait anymore. I called my sister. She put me in touch with a divorce lawyer, a serious one. We met that weekend. I brought a binder full of everything I'd gathered. He flipped through it slowly, nodding as he read. When he looked up, he said, "You've got enough to take her apart piece by piece, but you're going to have to act normal. You ready for that?" I didn't hesitate. More than ready. She thought she'd end it on her terms. She planned the betrayal, the exit, the victory lap. But the one thing she didn't plan for was me standing in the kitchen, holding the truth in my hands. It was a Thursday. Funny how betrayal always picks a pattern and sticks to it. I was at the shop when my neighbor called. He never calls, just texts. "Thought you should know. She just pulled up with some guy. They're in the house." I didn't panic, didn't scream, didn't even speak. I just wiped my hands on a rag, took off my gloves, and drove home. By the time I walked through the front door, my heartbeat was so calm it scared me. And there they were, Natalie and Brian, in my kitchen. His hands on her waist, laughing. They froze. I didn't yell, didn't throw a punch. "You've got 30 minutes, I said. "Get out!" Natalie's shock turned to rage almost instantly. "You don't get to throw me out of this house. I paid for it. Every brick, every month. You want a scene? Fine, let's make one." That's when she called her father, and 20 minutes later, he screeched into the driveway with her brother Tommy right behind him, puffed up, ready to fight. I was standing on the porch, phone in hand, recording. "You're trespassing," I said flatly. "Cops are already on the way." Her father pushed forward. "You can't do this. I co-signed the loan. This is my daughter's home." I didn't flinch. "Your daughter's been cheating on me for months. I've got proof. Hotel receipts, messages, photos. You really want to do this here? In front of the neighbors?" Right on cue, the police pulled up. And just like that, all the noise stopped. Tommy stepped back. Natalie's dad stammered. "Brian?" He was already gone. Slipped out the side door like a coward. The officers stayed while she packed a bag. It was quiet. Too quiet. Her hands shook as she zipped her suitcase. She didn't look at me. As she walked past me, she whispered, "You'll regret this. You don't know what you're doing." I smiled. Actually, for the first time in years, I know exactly what I'm doing. The next morning, the papers were filed. My lawyer served her at work. Apparently, she cried in the lobby, made a scene about how I ambushed her. Meanwhile, she'd been plotting to take everything: the house, my savings, the shop, even my tools. Their lawyer reached out, offered a deal. I keep the house, but pay her a massive settlement. We laughed, countered with silence. Then came the smear campaign. Her family told everyone I was abusive, controlling, that I trapped her. Her friends posted vague messages online. My sister wanted to clap back, but I told her not to. Let them dig their grave. She tried coming back for more stuff. I'd already changed the locks. My lawyer told hers, if she wants anything else, go through the court. Next time I saw her was the courtroom. She walked in with her family, Brian, and some overpriced lawyer who looked like he'd just stepped off a Netflix show. They were all smiles, confident, whispering, laughing. They thought it was already over. They had no idea what was coming. They mocked me in the hallway, whispered like I was already beaten. But when you spend your life under pressure, learning to fix what's broken, You don't walk into court unless you know how to win. I walked into that courtroom wearing my shop uniform, clean, pressed, name stitched in red. Not a suit, not a mask, just me. Their side? Polished suits, designer shoes, and smug faces. Natalie smirked when she saw me. Brian whispered something to her brother and laughed. Her father looked straight at me with that same old stare, like I was a stain on his family name. Their lawyer started with a performance, told the judge how Natalie had supported my career, how she helped me grow the business, how she deserved compensation for her sacrifices. Then they turned to the house. Her father took the stand, acting like he was doing charity by co-signing the loan. Said he only did it because I wasn't financially stable. I watched it all without flinching because I knew what was coming. They tried painting a picture, a poor mechanic with no direction, a sophisticated woman who elevated him. But then it was our turn. My lawyer stood calmly, barely glancing at the pile of documents beside him. First, he called my old boss to the stand. They looked confused, probably thought he'd talk about my work ethic or loyalty. Instead, he pulled out a signed contract. I wasn't just some guy turning wrenches. I was the owner of the entire shop, had been for 6 months. I bought it quietly while they laughed at me. I took business classes at night, secured the loan without a co-signer, and I kept working the floor because I loved the work, not because I had to. The courtroom shifted. You could feel it. Natalie's lawyer asked questions, tried to poke holes. My lawyer countered with receipts, emails, bank transfers. Then he dropped the real bomb. We have evidence that during the time my client was acquiring the business, his wife was cohabitating with another man, spending joint finances on personal luxuries, and discussing plans to take control of assets she never contributed to. Then came the messages, the hotel receipts, screenshots of her mocking me, calling me dead weight, and the pièce de résistance, recordings of her father joking about pressuring me to sign over the house, smiling as he said he'd make my life hell if I didn't cooperate. The judge leaned back in his chair, silent, expressionless. Natalie tried to interrupt, claimed I was hiding assets. My lawyer calmly presented the timeline. The business was purchased 2 weeks before he discovered the affair, solely in his name, funded from his personal savings and a commercial loan. Her father tried to object, said he was still a co-signer on the house. My lawyer handed over paperwork showing I had refinanced the house without him, months earlier. The judge looked straight at Natalie. If you were so involved in the business, why didn't you know he owned it? She had no answer. Brian? He suddenly remembered he had no financial involvement and left the room before the hearing even ended. Natalie's family? White as ghosts. Her mother buried her face in her hands. Her brother? Staring at the floor. The rest of the courtroom? Silent. This wasn't the victory lap they planned. This was a collapse, a reckoning. And I hadn't even finished. Revenge doesn't always come with shouting. Sometimes, it's just the quiet sound of a gavel dropping, while the people who tried to destroy you realize they were never holding the cards. After the last document was read, the courtroom fell into a stillness so thick you could hear the air conditioning. Natalie sat there blinking fast, like she couldn't believe it was real. Her lawyer whispered something, but she didn't react. Her whole world, the one she built on lies, ego, and entitlement, had just collapsed in front of a judge who barely raised his voice. The ruling was clear. She got nothing from the business. The judge stated she had no proven involvement, no financial claim, and no demonstrated knowledge of the asset's existence prior to legal proceedings. The house? Mine. Free and clear. Refinanced in my name. Every payment made by me alone. She got to keep her car and a small temporary support allowance. 3 months. That's it. When the judge asked if she had any final statements, Natalie stood, shaking, and tried to play the victim. Tears, regret, claims of confusion. She said I had abandoned her emotionally, that I shut her out. The judge didn't blink. He warned her to remain respectful, or she'd be held in contempt. Her mom tried to pull her back down. Her father? He stared straight ahead, stone-faced. But I could see it. The shame. He hadn't just lost a fight. He'd backed the wrong side, and the whole city would know. Because my lawyer had already prepared a public statement for the press. Not to shame them, just facts. Legal records. A quiet retelling of truth. After court, Natalie tried one more time. She followed me out, grabbing my arm in the parking lot. "You really hate me that much?" she asked, mascara smudged, voice cracking. "No," I said without turning. "I just finally love myself more." Brian was nowhere to be seen. Her brother looked like he wanted to sink into the pavement. Her father started dialing someone immediately. Probably damage control. Over the next week, it all unraveled. Brian was demoted. HR at his company became aware of the court documents. He was transferred out of state. Natalie's job? Gone. The client she handled with Brian requested a different team after the story broke. She quit before she could be fired, then tried to sue for hostile work environment. It went nowhere. Her friends vanished. The ones who laughed at me during her parties now avoided eye contact when they came into my shop. Yeah, some of them still needed their cars fixed. I treated them like I treated everyone else. Professional, calm, fair. Because petty revenge is loud and short-lived. But dignity? That echoes. I renovated the house, built a bigger garage, opened the second shop, hired 2 more mechanics, both of them good people who respect the craft. Sometimes I see Natalie's car drive slowly down the block. She doesn't stop, she just watches. Last month, she sent me an email. She wrote about regret. How Brian wasn't who she thought he was. How everything went wrong. How she never meant to hurt me. She ended it with, "If you're willing to talk, I'd like to make peace." I didn't reply, because peace already exists. It's under the hood of a car at 7 a.m. It's a clean garage, a full calendar, a quiet house. It's knowing I survived everything they threw at me, and never once lowered myself to their level.